Hello, I am Lady Kelsey, Master Kelsey, APOCALYPTA, born Kelsey Jean Marie O'Toole, March 3rd, 1989 at 2:11 a.m. in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I don't take anything too seriously, and at the same time, I take everything very seriously. I am a lady, I am a master, and I am apocalypse prepared.
P.S. By apocalypse prepared, I mean prepared for what's happening on Earth right now, and that will escalate in the coming years because a giant shift of fortune is occurring. I am prepared to be anchored in myself, to allow myself to be inspired, compelled into even greater service than I ever have been by being so on point in myself that the fear-based environment, that's very tempting and really quite convincing in its own way, can't get me. I am coming so thoroughly into my most unflinching self. I mean, sovereign in my own system, in my own psyche, and where I feel safe to be heart open, where I feel safe inside myself, where I trust myself and the movement of energy through me, through this body, through my brain. I am apocalypse prepared because I am anchored in my sovereignty, because I speak the language of energy, because I trust that energy is intelligent, always in conversation with itself, always in relationship to itself, coming up with efficient, effective solutions, and life is conspiring around us to offer us just that, moment by moment by moment, and surrendering to it, making friends with the mystery is what I mean by apocalypse prepared. I could go on and on and on. I'm definitely a poet here to be quite verbose and to play with the essential respect for the nonverbal through being so flexible verbally. And so I'm going to do my best to anchor all of the possibilities of what I could say to present DCFO to you. I'm going to do my best to be selective and to really listen to what needs to be said here and now in 4 parts. Welcome to the orientation.
This is my DCFO Unschool, where you come to remember yourself unfucked. What does it mean to be unfucked, though? Welcome to part one of the DCFO Unschool orientation, where we're going to cover what is DCFO, how do I use it, what's been right fucked in our history, in our culture, inside ourselves. What does it mean to be unfucked? What is the super self? What is eternal kindergarten sanctuary? Why would we want that for ourselves? How do we reparent ourselves back into that to reclaim, reorganize our insides for psyche-centered, heart-centered, soul-centered living? That is the answer to everything, and that is our extraction of ourselves from the wars at play to be in our power, prisoner of war energy retrieval. So DCFO is extremely simple and extremely complex. The universe is extremely complex, but the center of the universe has to be very, very simple for it to be able to recreate itself infinitely, which creates complexity. And so DCFO is an explanation of that, is a working formula, equation, PlayStation, to access the simplicity while attending to all of the complexity. You want to feel easy in all the things that you care about all at once. DCFO is the answer that came to me when I was on my knees asking, help me, give me a language to speak that attends to all of it. I fall into the category of autistic. My child's father, schizophrenic. I think of these as equal opposites on either end of the human spectrum. They're very, very similar and very, very different. And so I'm on my knees saying, how do I care for this child? How do I create an environment for him to not feel like he's in the middle of this war between our psyches, between our emotional realities, between our physical charge wanted him to have that world available to him. Peace, harmony, coherence. His dad introduced me to the word copacetic when I first met him, meaning in excellent order. That's been highly influential of my calling in of this system.
P.S. I would imagine that there is some layer of that in you if you are here, where there is this inner knowing that it exists. The peaceful, harmonious, balanced, mutual, thriving reality. That it exists somewhere. Somewhere in the grand scheme of the psychedelic reality swirling all around us, through us, always. That some relationship or relationships in your life inspire you to reach into the aliveness of it, or to reach towards the aliveness of it inside yourself and to fight for it.
And I could talk about it forever. I can apply it in any direction, in any conversation. And so this really is just a little introduction that can go on and on and on. And so if you're interested, if it sparks a fuck yes inside of you, please know that I am here to play, that I am here for the extensive application of DCFO. So basics. DCFO, discharge plus circulation equals flexibility and openness. I'm going to say it again, say it with me. Discharge plus circulation equals flexibility and openness. Flexibility and openness are our authentic expression when we are thriving. We are anchored through our bodies here on this planet now, which makes our material reality very flexible, particularly when we're also tethered into source. That openness is our baseline spirituality. We are just all very natural, very naturally, very spiritual. We get cut off from that. We get very confused, and a lot of charge gets lumped up in our system, aka trauma, aka any and every experience where we didn't feel safe enough to let the charge of our emotional experience, to let that electricity be grounded through our body and sent back into the earth, back to source, liberating our system to stay open and flexible. Instead, it has shut down. The pathways often feel very tense and narrow, rigid, and like it's hard for energy to get through, and it's hard to access flow in our everyday lives, especially with all that we care about and all that we're aware of and all that we want to attend to. Which is where discharge and circulation become essential. They are our best friends. They are the answer to everything. Everything. So what's fucked? Discharge has been shoved and dismissed throughout time because discharge is essentially emotional intelligence. It's speaking the language of energy and emotion in a way where charge is allowed to pass through without having to be explained, without having to make sense. Grief isn't just for funerals. Rage isn't just for psychos. Charge requires safe passage through our bodies to enable us to be our authentic, flexible, and open selves in very safe, very secure expressions. And we'll venture into how all of this adds up to inner justice and outer justice. How integrating and applying this awareness and playing with this DCFO every day is an equation for world peace. And there are infinite ways of doing DCFO because there are infinite ways of discharging and circulating energy. And there are infinite expressions of flexibility and openness. Each of us are a unique expression of authentic flexibility and openness. And most of us have been, and maybe still are, experiencing their flexibility and openness not online, or not available at the level that they can feel is authentic and is available. But it's like, how do we get back there? How do we remember? And how do we embody? So what's been fucked is that D is left till the end. Fucked. FOCD. It's DCFO, jarbled. Because without going into specifics, and I'm certainly not a historian, but I have been collecting awarenesses that really resonate as, of course, the external entities convinced in their fear-based reality of being themselves distanced from their own authentic flexibility and openness went into trying to control from that the shriveled pathways of flow, feeling like you have to force it. And so from that force became like overlording entities, whether it's religious, political, familial, all expressions of an external authority controlling others, especially in the direction of suppressing, dismissing, being ridiculed or killed, exiled, extinguished for emotional and energetic intelligence. That D is very dismissed. It's garbage. It is the end. It's the last thing to look at. That's our historical and cultural inheritance as humans. I'm so happy to be on the internet today because there are so many people playing with reconfiguring our reality, with bringing emotional and energetic intelligence back to the forefront. Whew, I have goosebumps everywhere. It's important, it's essential, and it's happening. And so I am for sure not the only place to play. But I'm inviting you to play with me because I love to play with this stuff. This is my special interest. This is the culmination of my life's work and fascination to be presenting you this today. And it's already been through a number of iterations in the past 6 years. And I'm just so honored to be surrendering to the service of this in my own small life and in the world at large. So mentioning all those other people, it's like, trust who you are drawn to. And they may have a 30-second practice for you that shifts everything. Follow your fuck yes. I have been a collector of bite-sized pieces. And that's a lot of what I present to you, invite you into in my offerings, in my containers and environments of experiential play to integrate the DCFO lifestyle of letting it be the answer to everything. So unfucked means reclaiming the D, putting it back at the front of DCFO. And D relates in the complexity to the water element, to the emotional reality. C to the air element, to the mental, psychic, intellectual reality. F, physical, material. It's the earth element. And O is the fire element. Spirituality is that natural connection to everything. We don't have to work hard on that. When we apply ourselves in D and C, F starts to shift and O is just there. We just are so easily and naturally very open. Yes, it's been shut down, but you don't have to learn a new skill to be open. It's discharging what's been stuck, what's been convincing you to be afraid, circulating energy to anchor your inhabitants of the openness, to be as naturally psychedelic as you are, connected to all of existence, and to feel safe and secure in that, and to feel the limitless possibility, the infinite resourced experience of being alive. That's what unfucked is. It's uncovering your unwounded inner child. Did you hear that? That exists. There is an unwounded inner child inside of you. It is a deep, authentic innocence that is a match for all the other innocence in the world. And there is that spark of innocence in everything that exists. That's God. That's a source. That's the beauty of surrendering to the mystery, is that life is always conspiring to lead us in that direction of remembering. And so, all that I present you is simply saying fuck yes to that. And then I'm also available to play in stretching our awareness and our conversations and our experiential practices to attending to any and every conversation possible on this earth while anchoring in that simplicity. It can hold us through everything. Everything. And we are at this climactic turning point on this planet, where the structures that cannot hold the sincerity of the fire of that innocence are being burnt up, destroyed, dissolved. There's a lot of wars going on, visible and invisible. And what we're talking about, and what DCFO can do for you, is remove you from the war, and remove the war from inside yourself, which means then you stop contributing to the frequency of war on the planet. And lots of that is subconscious wars going on. Your insides have been conditioned to be in opposition to each other. The easiest, most efficient, effective way of undoing that internal war is focusing on D, bringing it back to priority. And there are just so many delicious ways of doing that. May you trust that you already know so many delicious ways of doing discharge. That your inner child, both the wounded and the unwounded inner child, both have so many brilliant ideas and impulses, intuitive connection to excellence in discharge. You're already amazing at it. It's simply breeding permission among us to allow it back online in its fullness, and then to experience the glory of that reclamation. Reclamation inside yourself looks like capacity, remembering your authentic capacity to be so heart-centered and to feel very protected in that heart-centered state of being. To be vulnerable, raw, real with yourself in a way that bolsters, that allows, that anchors your heart-centered living so that you feel protected in your own body, your own energy bubble, where it becomes less penetrable to the external conditioning. So much less. Less and less and less and less penetrable. to the external authorities that would continue to attempt to enforce that D is unnecessary or that it is dismissible. And it's okay if you feel disgust come up at that, because it's haunting all of us. It's hurting all of us to be still living in the inheritance of history that has dismissed D, that has dismissed discharge, that said save it for later, save it for private, save it for the funeral, put it in the closet, bury it alive, anything to keep it away from me. Because you know why? Because people doing D breed permission. It is contagious because it's freedom, it's liberation, and that is the natural state of energy. Energy is made to be in motion. Yeah, someone's growling at that, aren't they? It's going to happen. There's going to be resistance to the liberation. But that's okay, because the same tactics that liberate, that we're talking about, that we're playing with in DCFO Unschool, the same tactics that liberate, that soothe and activate, that allow for this remembering, are the same tactics that maintain the remembering and that build the resilience, the unflinching expression of unfucked, which is to be heart-centered, as we were speaking of, soul-centered, to be anchored in the unwounded inner child, and to be unafraid to give any and every expression of the wounded child attention and expression, to feel safe and secure with yourself, to allow that discharge, to anchor into the soul self, the higher self, the God self, the unwounded inner child self. Words fall short for the unnameable, for the thing that is beyond logic, that is the most logical thing to seek, because we're not seeking something unknown. We're remembering the thing that we know best. And I want you in your power. Prisoner of war energy retrieval, taking back your attention and energy, your participation into your own body and into your own bubble, your portal of impact. To dissolve the wars at play, the thinking and figuring and measuring and planning and organizing and trying to understand everything and be ahead of it and control and psyche-centered. This relaxing, relieving place that reflects heart-centered, soul-centered living. Exquisitely sensitive people are often edge riders, experiencing the extremes of sanity, of expression, of pressure. And so the thing that I would wish most for my exquisitely sensitive people is to invest in being heart-centered and soul-centered so that you can access your psyche center. And you can do it in any order. If you're really drawn to focus on psyche center first, you go for that. And DCFO Unschool is organized so that you can jump in at any point. You don't have to go kindergarten, elementary, high school, then mastery. Go where you're drawn, because time is not linear and we're not learning in a linear way. We are remembering. And we all have unique expressions of this flexibility and openness. So trust where you are attracted, because it has something for you. Maybe again, it's a 30-second practice, or maybe it's a 30-day challenge, or maybe it's a 3-month immersive mystery experience where you have no idea what's happening, but something is happening, and then you get spit out the other side and you're like, holy shit, I am the expression of myself that I barely dared to dream of. Power, prisoner of war energy retrieval, taking back all your tentacles from all the places that they are tangled to be in coherence in yourself, so that the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual reality of you, those layers, are in cooperation with each other, that they are in brilliant friendship with each other inside yourself. Power, prisoner of war, energy, retrieval. You're remembering yourself at center. This is your sanctuary, and you are worthy of sanctuary spaces for this remembering, because intense stuff can come up, because we've experienced different intensities and probably not felt safe to discharge the charge, and so it's stuck inside of us. And basically the path to freedom is poking at it, and we can poke at it directly. I'm really good at that, and lots of people find me quite annoying, don't necessarily want to be close to me for a long time, because I am drawn to density. I'm drawn to stirring it up. And then I'm like, hey, I'm so willing to stand with you and play with this and see this and offer you unconditionally loving acceptance for whatever expression that thing needs to take in this moment to be allowed back into recycled freedom circulation. We've got this. This is about being bold and brave and going where lots of humans are not going. We're all building the momentum to go in this direction, so they will come along eventually. But I know that I'm talking right now to people who are extra bold and brave. Even if you haven't fully experienced that side of yourself, I trust that you have been attracted to me here in this moment, because you are exquisitely sensitive and you know how fucking powerful it is. And there is a relatively decent sized willingness throbbing inside of you to boldly, bravely remember. I think that wraps up part 1 of our orientation. These are conversations we can have again and again and again. And that we can take in really specific directions of religion, world politics, family dynamics, intimate relationships, parenting, creative expression, running your own business, being professional, being appropriate, but by standards that genuinely, authentically suit your DCFO. Being a living definition of high functioning in a way that actually respects your exquisitely sensitive self, DCFO. And so for this part 1 of the orientation, I'm introducing you to kindergarten.
Actually, just kidding. I want to recap. I want to say it all again before we get into what is kindergarten, and you're totally invited.
So the biggest takeaway that I hope you get from today, from part 1 of this DCFO Unschool orientation, is that discharge is so accessible to you that you already know how to do it, that your intuition and impulses are so smart and always leading you in that direction. Because we are made of energy, and energy is intelligent, and it's always in conversation with itself, conspiring for the best case scenario. What's in the way is defense mechanisms and coping strategies for hanging on, so that we could be more appropriate, so that we could fit the expectations, the demands of our environments and external authorities. That said, you gotta hang on because I'm just hanging on, and we're all hanging on because D has been shunned. And so D, discharge. I do this. It's anything that engages ourself, our system, our body to let go of energy. This one is like the whole body is mapped out in the hand, the brain is in the fingertips. And so for me, that like massages my brain, it's like stroking my brain saying you can relax, which immediately just lets energy flow. When my mind isn't engaged to hang on and hold everything tight and try to control everything and not let go of the energy, when my brain relaxes, the energy just flows because it already knows where to go, because it wants to go back into circulation. It wants to be recycled and refreshed. Discharge can look like stomping. It can look like screaming. Often we hold on so much until discharge bursts out of us in some kind of reactive or violent or not nice, abusive way. Because it is abusive to our own selves to leave D until the end of the sentence, end of the story, to hide it away. It is self-abusive to not get enough discharge. So we've been groomed and conditioned, and that's pretty fucked. We've been groomed and conditioned to be self-abusive, to be really quite thoroughly, day by day, self-abusive in storing charge in our bodies, in forgetting or dismissing how important discharge is throughout our days. That allows for healthy, active circulation, which allows us to be in a coherent state rather than in a self-abused, impacted state, holding a bunch of trauma, blocking the pathways for good flow and for healthy living. So most of us have been groomed to hold so much until we can't hold it anymore. And then it comes out in an implosion or an explosion. We have a breakdown. Sometimes we melt down, and we melt down at others or at something or at ourselves. And then we exhaust the energy. It comes out, blah, 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 flying out. And we're going to cover in part 2 of the orientation the ABCs of entanglement that keep us discharging at things, because that perpetuates abusive cycles. That's part 2 of the ingrained self-abuse that we've been in, not getting enough discharge. And I know abuse is a really big word and it's a serious topic, and I mean it when I say it, that all abuse comes from this abuse, from not getting enough discharge. And so think about it. Oh yeah, I just instantly went like that, just moved my body. Moving the body allows for energy to flow. And I find it personally imperative. It's changed my life, and I see it in my clients and students, is that understanding that the earth and that source or God or heaven or center of the universe or the cosmic galactic center, any words that indicate the place of creation, the place that we originate from, that is infinitely churning with life force energy, with endless amounts of life force energy. Okay? We can send all the charge into the earth or into that source point. And it will recycle the energy for us. And we can never ask too much of the earth or of source to recycle. Both points can recycle as much energy as we could possibly ever send it. And we would never stress out that system so that it wouldn't also be available for everyone else. This is the infinite landscape that we're living on and that we're remembering our access to, so that we can feel the possibilities of a peaceful, non-abusive existence in our own bodies and energy bubble, in our families, in our communities, and in our world landscape. Like, world peace is accessible. We have to build momentum, and it starts with our portal of impact, our relationship with ourself. So discharge. There's just infinite ways of instigating, of saying yes, yes, yes to that letting go of charge through your body into the earth or back up into source. Some of my favorites are simply laying on the earth, sitting beside a tree, stomping. What are some of my other favorites? Making noises, enacting, embodying animals. There are infinite ways to express, to experience energy moving through your body, leaving your body, and to joyfully or sincerely dramatize the texture of the charge moving through you, whether that texture is anger or grief or excitement, bliss. It's not just about letting go of the bad stuff. It's about discharging the charge. It's about letting go of the charge, not being a storage unit for any charge, not even the good stuff. We don't want to hold on to the charge of good either, or of pleasing energy either, because that still blocks up the pathways. We need to feel safe to let go of the negative and the positive, to be in continuous flow. Then we're holding the signal for ourselves that we're safe to experience, that we're safe to receive. And everybody that I know is struggling, striving, seeking, doing their very best to attempt to integrate their ability to receive, because it has been so clunked and crunched up that people aren't in the flow of prosperity, of thriving. Moving the energy, recycling into the earth and into source. You are the center point of the infinity sign. You are the center of your own universe, moving energy between heaven and earth. And you want your pathway to be open. So that means you can't hold on to anything. Clenching, do it with me now. Clench everything, 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 everything. And then release is this balancing position. It's just so simple. Taking 3 deep breaths before I get out of bed in the morning. And it's like my body goes to this because I have the muscle memory that this works for me. And that's the point of leaning in to D. Imagine you have a game controller, okay? And there's always this one button that's like running or that you use the most, Well, that is your D. You are just everything else that you're doing in the game. D is just there. It's in between everything else. It's all around everything else. D, because you don't want to block your pathway. You want to be available and on point, aware, and particularly in joy, in your bliss, in your thriving, in your prosperity, in your faith, tethered in your soul self, your innocence, your soul center, heart center, psyche center. That's the place where you not only win, but you win-win, creating best case scenarios for yourself, but that also proliferates the global scene. Energetics are really subtle, and so they've been possible to ignore and dismiss. Fucked. We are reclaiming DCFO unschool. We are deconditioning all of the dismissal, and we're putting D everywhere because it's fun, it's effective, it's efficient at reprogramming, at remembering, at reorchestrating a reality so that it's actually respectful of how exquisitely sensitive we are, how infinitely resourced we are, and of the potential that we're actually sitting in this multidimensional reality. So I welcome you to kindergarten. which is the monthly membership at Antidote Aesthetic, the level 1 of DCFO Unschool. But because it's level 1 doesn't mean you have to start there, and it's not like you have to go through that and then you get to move on to level 2 and then level 3. Not at all. Kindergarten is the eternal sanctuary of heart-centered living. And so I'm inviting you into monthly membership that will be open for 3 weeks every season for new people to come in. And we have daily, weekly, and monthly interactive engagement opportunities. So daily, you will be getting adoration and affirmative interaction from me, your headmistress, APOCALYPTA. And it is my joy, my pleasure to show up for myself this way, and I am extending it to my people. You're invited to the tapping club that happens 3 times a week, tapping EFT. Whether you know EFT or not, tapping is an amazing self-stimulation, as is stroking. Stroking and sweeping off the body into the earth or up into source, saying, take it. I am willing anything that I can release right now. It's also really great if you have something that's inflamed or hurt to sweep that inflammation off to the earth. The inflammation is happening there to call attention there because circulation is needed for healing, to bring that part back into alignment with everything else after a shock or a trauma, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical, whatever it is. Stroking. Drawing big hearts on the front of you is a Donna Eden energy move that's playing into the subtle energetics of the body. All of these are telling the system it's okay to relax, and in relaxation we're naturally discharging. We're naturally this flexible open pathway in continuous energetic exchange with source and with the earth. That is our authentic design. So we're leaning in to give that permission. So all the way through DCFO Unschool, we're playing with different expressions and experiences of permission, of acclimatizing into the remembering of our flexibility and openness by engaging discharge and circulation in different ways. So kindergarten, we've got story time, where I'll be reading to you particularly books, transmissions that I wish someone had read to me from 0 to age 7, which is the age range of kindergarten. It's the first quarter of the first Saturn cycle of our life. At 0 to 7 is a time of being naturally of the mystery, which means that you naturally speak the language of energy. This is conditioned out of most children early on, where they don't feel safe to cry because they're shushed, etc. And if you're a parent and you've done that, please have compassion for yourself, as I need to with myself, because we experienced that. And it's only in experience and experiencing and expressing that we get to notice where there's stuck stuff. And so kindergarten is a sanctuary for noticing, for feeling soft and tender with the self, for getting really heart-centered, and for prioritizing and primarily focusing on non-verbal experiencing and expression. We love verbal. I'm a very verbose person, but reprioritizing D means reprioritizing the non-verbal, the feeling and sensing skills. And so we do this through the tapping, which links up the verbal and non-verbal, re-equalizing the two in our felt sense experiencing. We do this through the energetic transmissions of story time, through the yes, yes, yes approval of adoration, of adoring and affirmative daily interaction, which you were always, always worthy of, through two-hour gatherings per month at the new moon and the full moon, following the cycles, riding the waves, experiencing, remembering the rhythms, which are all speaking to us. The cycles, the seasons, the rhythms are speaking to us about DCFO, about our inherent relationship with energy, with letting go, about being flexible and open, giving and receiving, everything in balance, and feeling the trust and faith of being heart-centered. And we've got a show and tell Telegram group for you to share along the way. Any art, any stories, any questions. That's a place where anyone can contribute. There'll definitely be some art prompts along the way. And that's a great place to share what comes through you. So right now, whenever you're seeing this, if kindergarten interests you, of having really a sense of just warm presence around you in a continuous way, saying, yes, 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 you've got this. You are it. You're profoundly beautiful. And I could just gobble you up. Any expression you have to offer is welcome here. Please be honest. Please show me your sincere heart. That having that kind of energy, support, loving kindness around you is appealing. The DCFO Unschool Kindergarten may well be for you. Kindergarten is the foundational basics of reparenting ourselves. It's feeling safe. It's feeling sanctuary. It's feeling the freedom to finally express and to fully express, particularly non-verbally, through the body, through vocalization, and getting back, through that expression, getting back to the inner knowing of your energetic intelligence, letting answers come easier and easier, and answers that respond to everything at the same time, that feel like miracles, but that are authentic expressions of sincere connection that happens when our hearts feel safe to be open. And so it's recovering the unwounded inner child through tending to the wounded child that didn't feel safe to express, that didn't feel safe to let go, to discharge, to circulate energy, and that's been holding on really tight. And sometimes it can take a while to unfurl. And sometimes it can happen fast, and either way, you are so welcome to participate at this level. So whenever you're seeing this, check out the kindergarten page that will be linked somewhere around this video, wherever you're watching it. Check out the kindergarten page to see if the registration is open. It's open for 3 weeks every season, and I'd love to see you in there. And then I'll see you in orientation part 2 for the ABCs of entanglement, setting up enough circulation, especially between somatics and semantics, between the body and the mind, between the nonverbal and the verbal, making sure the energy is flowing rather than fogged. We're playing with perspective and the physical system, positioning you in your sentences and in your system as the center of your own reality, so that you can experience the jackpot of your own presence and feel safe and enjoy in the responsibility of your awareness and your presence. And then I'll also tell you about elementary, which is the level 2 of the DCFO, Unfucked, Unschool. So thank you for joining me here. It means the world to me, and I can't wait to meet you more, especially if you sign up for kindergarten.